Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 84 based on novel. So let's start. The border between the Eastern Xian region and Western Xian region. This was front line of the Western Xian region. Just another 100 miles or so, and one would enter the territory of the Western Xian region, which had already the headquarters of Devil Prison. A couple of figures were silently seated on a towering mountain at the border. They appeared extremely small on the mountaintop, but they gave off an imposing aura that made respect and fear arise in one's heart. The symbol ancestor line had received the respect of the countless of lives in this world since ancient times. This was not merely because they stood at the peak of this world. Instead, it was because they possessed a willingness to sacrifice themselves for others. Back then, the symbol ancestor had ignited his reincarnation, and sealed both the Yimo Emperor and the crack between the planes in order to protect the countless lives of this world. It was through this act that they were able to prevent this world from falling into the enemy's hands. His 8 disciples had similarly given everything they had for this world. All the experts of this world had a heartfelt respect when they talked about these heroes. This was also the reason why Ying Huan's group could easily establish the 3 great alliances. It was not purely due to the pressure from their strength. Instead, it was due to what they had done for this world in the past. Ying Huan sat quietly at the top of the mountain peak. At this moment, her eyes were not shut to cultivate. Her slim fingers within a pair of white gloves were aimlessly drawing circles on a rock on the ground. This absent-minded manner of hers was witnessed by the Flame Master and the others by the side. Such feelings were normally rarely seen on her. The Flame Master's group exchanged glances with each other as they smiled bitterly, and shook their heads. She had been acting in such a manner ever since she detected that Lin Dong had exited his cultivation seclusion. However, it was at least much better than her iciness from before. The chaotic Demon Sea situation has already been stabilized. It is said that Tang Xinlian has already led half of the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army to aid the Demon region, while Lin Dong had led the other half to the 4 Xian regions. The Flame Master suddenly said. Ying Huan's hand suddenly paused upon hearing that name. After which, she nodded. Once the Demon region and the 4 Xian regions finish off the Devil Prison army on their side, we will be able to attack the Western Xian region. The Darkness Master's eyebrows lifted as she looked towards the distant Western Xian region. Even though it was very far away, it was still possible for them to detect the frightening demonic chi surging there. I wonder just what Devil Prison is doing. They are far too quiet. The Thunderbolt Master and the others also nodded. Devil Prison had basically done nothing during this period, and simply allowed them to eliminate the 3 Devil Prison armies. Clearly, given the cunning character of Devil Prison, they would not do something as foolish as making unnecessary sacrifices. If this was so, it meant that the Yimo definitely had some unknown aim. Coldness gathered within Ying Huan's pretty eyes when this serious matter was mentioned, and she clenched her hand tightly. After pondering for a moment, she said, "We can prepare to summon her soul." The Flame Master and the rest were stunned, before they quickly nodded. It was indeed about time. Let's get ready. The Darkness Master stood up. Her words suddenly cut as her expression became awkward. After which, she arrived beside Ying Huan and softly said, "It seems that we can't do it now." The Flame Master and the rest had also become aware. They looked towards a certain direction, and watched the space there distort as a figure swiftly shot over. Ying Huan had naturally also felt this familiar aura. Anxiety and panic was revealed in her icy eyes while her hand was involuntarily tightened. Ha ha, so this is where everyone is. Space was distorted, and a figure appeared on the mountain peak. Lin Dong looked at the Flame Master and the others. He cupped his hands together and smiled. The Flame Master's group looked at Lin Dong as surprise flashed across their eyes. "You have already created the Divine Palace?" Their voices contained a shock that could not be hidden. They were well aware of just how difficult it was to create the Divine Palace. Even their present selves could not say that they had succeeded. Yet, Lin Dong had completed this step. This naturally caused them to be exceptionally shocked. "I was lucky." Lin Dong landed on the ground as he smiled and shook his head. After which, he looked at Ying Huan at the top of the mountain peak. The latter's plain dress and long icy blue hair gently swayed under the mountain breeze. Her clear and pretty eyes seemed to avoid him after seeing him approach. Both of you should chat. The Darkness Master waved towards the Flame Master and the rest upon seeing this. After which, they turned and left. Senior sister. Ying Huan felt a little panic in her ice-cold heart when she saw that they were about to leave. She hurriedly wanted to make them stay. However, they had already disappeared. Lin Dong's gaze paused on Ying Huan after seeing that the Darkness Master's group had left for the time being. After which, he walked forward. Ying Huan's aura, which did not weaken even when facing the Heaven-Seat King of Devil Prison, became sluggish upon seeing this. She involuntarily took a small step back. Why? Are you unhappy that I have come out from my cultivation seclusion? Lin Dong stood in front of Ying Huan and smilingly asked. No, Ying Huan shook her head, but her pretty eyes slightly flickered. In that case, you should look at me when you speak. It was the first time Lin Dong had such an evasive mannerism from her. He could not help but find it rather interesting. He extended his hand and gently lifted Ying Huan's sharp snow-white chin. After which, both pairs of eyes looked into each other. Ying Huan was also startled by Lin Dong's action. She gazed upon at the increasingly determined young face in front of her. The latter's eyes were filled with a warm smile, causing her heart to feel a little warmth. Congratulations. You have created the Divine Palace. Ying Huan softly said. Lin Dong grinned. After which, he saw the long snow-white gloves that on Ying Huan's hands. She also seemed to have detected his eyes, and involuntarily withdrew her hands. Lin Dong grabbed her arm before she could do this. A frightening chill emanated from the glove he held in his hand. What happened? Lin Dong frowned slightly and asked. Nothing. Ying Huan struggled for a while. She wanted to pull her arm back, but Lin Dong's hand was just like a metal pincer. He stared at her and extended his other hand to gently remove the glove. Ying Huan sighed softly in her heart upon seeing this. She could only allow him to do as he pleased. A crystal-like hand was revealed after the snow-white glove was removed. The original fair and slender hand had become crystal-like ice. At a glance, it appeared as though her hand was made entirely from ice. Lin Dong was a little taken aback as he looked at her ice-like hands. A frightening chill seeped towards him as he held her hand. This chill made him feel an intense and sharp pain. Ch. Cold chi converged on Lin Dong's palm, and a thin layer of ice swiftly covered Lin Dong's arm. The latter could feel the yuan power within his body become sluggish when his arm was enveloped by this layer of ice. What is this? Lin Dong completely ignored the ice covering his arm as he stared at Ying Huan. There was a trace of anger in his voice. Ying Huan gently bit her lips, but stubbornly refused to speak. Is this the repercussion from opening the ancestral citadel? Lin Dong thought for a moment and quickly recalled the strange actions of Ying Huan at that time. Why didn't you tell me? Will you still go in if I told you? Ying Huan stared at Lin Dong and retorted. Whether I go in or not is for me to decide. I seem to have told you before that you are not allowed to lie to me. Lin Dong furiously said. Even if it not for you, I will still open the ancestral citadel. If it not for the ancestral citadel, do you know just how many people in the chaotic Demon Sea, Demon region, and 4 Xian regions would have died? It was clearly the first time that Ying Huan had seen Lin Dong become angry at her. She could not help but feel wronged in her heart. However, she still clenched her teeth and spoke. Do you enjoy being the savior of the world so much? Lin Dong cried out angrily. He had did his best to train. Yet, she had did her best to torture herself. Then what should I have done? Allow Devil Prison to sweep over the world and let everyone die together. Ying Huan clenched her hands and said. All right, since you love to be a savior, go and be one. I will no longer concern myself with you. Lin Dong's eyes widened with rage as he said. Ying Huan's lovely figure shook while she stared intently at Lin Dong. Her body trembled as she turned her head away. Her eyes had turned red as tears began to roll down her face. Then don't bother about me. I don't need you to care even if I die. Ying Huan shrugged off Lin Dong's hand as she choked out. Lin Dong looked at her trembling figure. At this very moment, she appeared exceptionally weak. The ice-cold aura was no longer present. This caused his heart to ache. He reached out and tried to grab her. However, Ying Huan stubbornly dodged him. Lin Dong disregarded this. He unreasonably grabbed her hand, and powerfully pulled, dragging her into his embrace. Both of his arms were like pincers. They were accompanied by an iciness as they grabbed her narrow waist, which felt extremely nice to touch. Ying Huan struggled with all her might. However, she seemed to have forgotten that she was stronger than Lin Dong. If they really fought, Lin Dong would not be able to stop her. Don't move. Lin Dong cried out angrily. Ying Huan gritted her teeth. I don't need you to care. Lin Dong adopted a stern face. He lowered his head and ruthlessly kissed those rosy lips. Both of them suddenly stiffened when their lips made contact. The sensation on their touching skins was slightly cool like jade, yet there was a certain peacefulness under this sensation. Ying Huan was clearly stunned by this action of his. Her icy blue eyes looked at the face that was almost touching her own. She did not dare to move, while a blush gushed out on her pretty face. The two kissed on the mountaintop. It was a long time later before their lips separated. Ying Huan finally recovered. Her somewhat red eyes stared at Lin Dong in embarrassment and anger. You what? Lin Dong licked his lips. After which, he tightly hugged the girl in his embrace. A faint glint appeared within his pitch-black eyes. After which, his lips approached her ear, and he softly said, Your appearance earlier was really like how you were in the past. Like the lively girl, who would occasionally act willfully and throw tantrums, but also make one could not help but cherish her. Ying Huan gently leaned on Lin Dong's chest as she felt his warmth. Tears once again emerged in her eyes. After which, she muttered softly. I did not want to lie to you. But I really did not have any other choice. Lin Dong felt some sadness in his heart after hearing the choking voice of the girl in his embrace. After which, he held her firmly and said in a serious voice, I will protect you. Ying Huan shut her eyes as she gently buried her face into Lin Dong's chest. There was a slight smile on her face. However, this smile was accompanied by a slight trace of bitterness. With these words of yours, I will be perfectly satisfied regardless of what happens in the end. Atop the mountain peak, the two figures hugged each other for a long time, before Ying Huan finally pushed Lin Dong away. She pursed her rosy lips and glared at Lin Dong in a somewhat embarrassed manner as she said, It is all your fault. They have definitely seen us. They can watch all they want. Lin Dong was unconcerned. Soon after, he smiled at Ying Huan and said, Why are you becoming more and more like how you were in the past? It might be akin to the final radiance of the setting sun. Ying Huan heedlessly said. However, she smiled faintly after seeing Lin Dong's stern face. We are preparing to initiate the soul summoning. Soul summoning? Lin Dong was startled. There seems to be no signs of activity from First Senior Sister. However, I can sense that she has successfully reincarnated. Once the three great regions stabilize, we will engage Devil Prison in the decisive battle. Hence, we need to summon her. Ying Huan said. First Senior Sister? Lin Dong frowned. He thought for a moment, before replying. That's right, it's the Life-Death Master? Is she really still alive? First Senior Sister controls the power of life and death. Amongst us, First Senior Sister is the one who is most unlikely to die. Ying Huan said. This forceful summoning won't have any detrimental effect, will it? Lin Dong asked. I can sense that First Senior Sister has successfully reincarnated. There should not be problem summoning her now, Ying Huan said. Lin Dong nodded. The Life-Death Master was one of the 8 ancient masters. If they had her aid when the great battle began, it would raise their chances of victory. Please help guard us while we arrange for the soul summoning. Okay. Leave it to me. Ying Huan beckoned with her hand, and light flashed on the mountain top as the Flame Master and the others appeared. They gazed at the 2 individuals with a strange look in their eyes. Cough. Lin Dong could not help but cough dryly after seeing the expression in their eyes, while Ying Huan's pretty face reddened. Soon after, she calmed her heart and said, "Let's begin." The Flame Master and the others nodded. They immediately moved and rose into the air as frightening Yuan power ripples swept out from within their bodies like floodwater. Yuan power spread. Finally, it turned into many entwining threads of light. These threads gradually turned into a complicated array, while Ying Huan and the rest stood at the 6 corners of the array. A circular light barrier rose and finally covered the 6 of them. Ying Huan glanced at the Darkness Master and nodded. With a flick of her finger, a black and white speck of light suddenly shot out. This light floated at the middle of the formation. It was a very tiny cluster of light, and there seemed to be a thread of black hair floating within it. A mysterious fluctuation faintly emanated from it. The group sat down in the air as their eyes were slowly shut. The strand black hair started to burn, and an incomparably mysterious ripple quietly spread before vanishing. The 6 people in the sky were all completely silent. Lin Dong stared at them. After seeing that there was nothing unusual, he finally nodded and sat down on the mountain. He was aware that they needed to quietly wait. Perhaps, the next figure which appeared in the horizon would be that legendary Life-Death Master. Lin Dong felt some curiosity towards this ancient master whom he had never met. Attempting to summon the Life-Death Master clearly required some time. 10 days passed while Lin Dong sat on the mountain. In the sky, Ying Huan's group did not show any signs of stopping during these 10 days. Many faint and mysterious ripples were emitted. However, Lin Dong did not see the Life-Death Master appear. It seemed that summoning her was not an easy task. The Demon region and the 4 Xian regions were unusually turbulent during these 10 days. With the addition of the chaotic Demon Sea Alliance army, the strength of the 2 great alliance armies rose significantly. This allowed them to begin attacking the Yimo armies. Both sides fought continuously for 10 days. The commotion from the battles had basically spread throughout the Demon region and the 4 Xian regions. It was an extremely miserable fight. Blood splattered over the land, and the sky seemed to be covered by a vast stream of figures. Such a war could only be described as terrifying. Although the Devil Prison armies were powerful, they did not have any reinforcements. Moreover, the 3 great alliances were cooperating with each other and their morale was high. Within a short 10 days, the 2 armies stationed outside of the Western Xian region had been completely defeated. They were completely defeated after being chased by the Alliance army, suffering countless of deaths in the process. The situation of the 3 great regions gradually stabilized after now that things had reached this stage. Once they cleaned up the battlefields and made some preparations, the armies of the 3 great alliances would begin to gather towards the 4 Xian regions. Their momentum was undoubtedly extremely overwhelming. When the people of the 4 Xian regions were filled with shock as they watched the black cloud-like waves of soldiers sweeping through the sky. Compared to this, the war that came about in the Eastern Xian region due to Yuan Gate back then could only be considered child's play. The 3 great alliance armies gathered in the 4 Xian regions. After a brief reorganization, they began to head towards the Western Xian region. The pressure from their mighty aura caused even the sky to dim. That majestic battle intent formed from the gathering of countless individuals made the world trembling in its wake. On a majestic peak within at the borders of the Western Xian region, Lin Dong detected the approach of the 3 great alliance armies. He opened his eyes and peered into the distance with a grave expression. Is the decisive battle about to begin? Lin Dong muttered to himself. This calm before the storm made him feel that as if it was difficult to breathe. This time, they no longer had a legendary existence like the symbol ancestor who could support the greatest burden. They could only rely on themselves to protect this world. Lindorn deeply inhaled. After which, his eyes looked towards the light array in the sky. This was the 15th day. However, the summoning did not lead to anything. If it was not because of Ying Huanhuan's certainty, Lindorn would have suspected that the Life-Death Master had failed to reincarnate. If this was the case, it would undoubtedly be a big blow towards for them all. Lindorn frowned. However, the light array in the sky suddenly shook just as he was feeling a little uneasy in his heart. Subsequently, he saw a dazzling light suddenly shoot towards the sky. This light beam was extremely mysterious. It appeared to possess a mighty aura, but an ordinary person was unable to detect it. Even Lindorn was only able to sense it because he had advanced to the Divine Palace level. Ying Huanhuan's group opened their eyes at this moment. Some anxiety was present within them. If even this summoning light could not summon the Life-Death Master, it would mean that they had failed. All we can do now is wait for a response. They exchanged glances with each other. They had already done all they could. Some changes occurred in the distant Great Desolate Province of the Eastern Xian region when the mysterious light beam shot towards the sky. A tiny figure was seated on a tall building in a city at the middle of the Great Desolate Province. Her small, slim and fair legs swung to and fro as her small lips continued to hum a joyous tune. The tune from the little girl's lips suddenly stopped as she lifted her small face and looked into the distance with a lost expression. Those innocent and large eyes of hers could see an extremely dazzling ray of light in the distant sky. That is. The little girl's swinging legs slowly halted as countless colors swam in her large eyes. Soon after, a painful expression emerged on her small face as if something was awakening deep within her mind. Bang! An extremely terrifying aura suddenly exploded, causing the clouds in the sky above the city to distort. They vaguely transformed into a 10,000 feet large black and white cloud. It twisted and squirmed as it turned into a giant circular cloud. The giant cloud was black and white, appearing just like life and death. A figure suddenly shot out from within the city. After which, she swiftly appeared on the tall building and looked at the little girl, whose large eyes were filled with changing colors. Anxiety flashed across her face as she hurriedly cried, "Yin Yin. What is happening to you?" That small girl called Yin Yin slowly lifted her small face and gazed at the beautiful and dear woman in front of her. She quickly gave the latter a faint smile. However, this smile no longer possessed the same innocent and carefree appearance as before. "You." Jiang Shui's pretty face was a little pale as she observed the current Yin Yin while tears gathered within her eyes. Have you awakened?" Yin Yin walked off the tall building, stepping on the air as she arrived in front of Jiang Shui and gently embraced her. Her voice still appeared a little immature. "Thank you, elder sister." Jiang Shui trembled slightly as she looked at the little girl in her embrace. Her eyes were red as she said, "Are you still my little sister?" Awakening does not mean that the old memories are erased. Although I have changed, I am both the Life-Death Master and Yin Yin. Yin Yin softly said. Life-Death Master. Jiang Shui's figure shook. She was aware that Yin Yin was a reincarnator. However, she never imagined that Yin Yin's former reincarnation would actually be one of the 8 masters, the Life-Death Master. Are you going to leave us?" Jiang Shui mumbled. "No way. I am going to lend them a hand. Elder sister should know of Devil Prison. We will never be able to live peacefully if we do not finish them off." Yin Yin shook her head. She smiled at Jiang Shui and said, "Elder sister, you can be rest assured that I will return once I settle those matters. Is that all right?" Jiang Shui was speechless. She could only nod her head and hug the little girl as if she was afraid to lose her. Yin Yin also hugged Jiang Shui's neck. After which, she softly kissed Jiang Shui's neck. Soon after, her body slowly faded until she completely disappeared. "You must come back." Jiang Shui looked at her now empty arms as tears involuntarily fell. Lindorn looked at the light beam in the sky. His heart suddenly shook, and his eyes peered into the distance where light was flashing. A moment later, a tiny figure appeared before their anxious eyes. The light disappeared and a little girl was revealed. Subsequently, Lin Dong's group was left completely stunned. You. Lin Dong looked at this somewhat familiar and cute little girl as disbelief surged in his eyes. You are Yin Yin? Big brother. Yin Yin gave Lin Dong a sweet smile. After which, she directly pounced towards him in front of Ying Huan and the rest's stunned eyes. Lin Dong gazed at the large black eyes of this little girl. A deep feeling had appeared within those originally pure and innocent eyes. Such depths appeared as though they had seen though life and death. Lin Dong's body gradually stiffened. His eyes were filled with shock. Who could have imagined that the life-death master, whom they had searched for such a long time, was actually Yin Yin? On the mountain peak, Lin Dong looked at the little girl, which had leapt into his embrace, with some remnant shock in his eyes. In fact, it was a long while later before he finally inhaled a deep breath of air and lowered his head to look at Yin Yin. Immediately, he saw the latter staring back at him with her large smiling eyes. However, her eyes no longer looked as innocent as before. Instead, there was a teasing expression within them. How unexpected! The person whom I met so many years ago is actually the renowned life-death master now. Lin Dong sighed with a complicated emotion in his heart. Was the current Yin Yin still that naive and innocent little girl whom he met in the past? In fact, Lin Dong could not find the slightest hint of that girl within her eyes. Perhaps Yinin's memories had merged with the life-death master, but as of now, she was most likely the life-death master. There is no need to frown. Reincarnation is not the same as rebirth. The merger of two sets of memories is not equivalent to getting rid of one of them. In my heart, I am still the same Yin Yin when facing elder sister. Yinin's dark black large eyes seemed to have seen through Lin Dong's mind as she laughingly said. Lin Dong scratched his head. After which, he looked at Ying Huan and the rest, who were standing beside him, before he shrugged his shoulders and said, "Your big senior sister is back. Hello, everyone. Did you guys miss me?" Yin Yin waved her small hand towards Ying Huan's group. Meanwhile, the smile on her small face looked exceptionally innocent. "Big senior sister, this appearance really suits you." The spatial master walked towards her with a smile, before he extended his arm and tugged Yinin's long hair. However, the latter immediately leapt up before she ruthlessly pulled his ear and said, "Little Space, you must be respectful towards big senior sister. Where are your manners? How many times have I told you before?" When the Flame Master and the rest saw this, they laughed bitterly immediately. Unexpectedly, even after her appearance changed, the Life-Death Master's violent nature remained the same. After lecturing the Spatial Master, the Life-Death Master finally patted her small hands before she turned to look at the Western Xian region. Promptly, a dark expression flashed across her large eyes before she said, "It seems like they have found the devil-suppressing prison which I was suppressing previously." Ying Huan nodded and said, "Currently, the troops from the three great alliances are rushing over. Once their troops arrives, we will attack the Western Xian region and exterminate the devil prison. I never expected that another great world war is about to begin. However, this time around, teacher is not around to help us. Therefore, we can only rely on ourselves." The Life-Death Master sighed. Meanwhile, a juvenile voice contained a solemnness that left one feeling pressured. The expression of the Flame Master's group became increasingly solemn upon hearing this. "Big senior sister, there is no need to be so pessimistic. Teacher might no longer be around, but the devil prison has also lost their Yimo emperor. In fact, they are trapped in this world like prisoners and there is ultimately no way they can escape death." Ying Huan said. "Ha ha, that's right. Teacher might not be around, but the most frightening Yimo, the Yimo emperor, is also not around." The Life-Death Master smiled and nodded. Following which, a fearsome glint flashed across her large eyes before she looked at the Western Xian region and said, "This time around, we must get rid of them completely. The Alliance army should arrive in another 2 days." The Flame Master said. "I?" The Life-Death Master extended her small arms before she smilingly said, "In that case, let's wait for another 2 days. After which, we will go and exterminate all the Yimo." Even though she had an innocent smile on her face when she uttered these words, the frightening murderous desire within her words caused the surrounding temperature to plummet. Big brother. The life-death master tilted her small head before she looked at Lin Dong. Can you not address me in this manner? Lin Dong shuddered involuntarily before he said helplessly. The life-death master involuntarily chuckled before she said in a lazy manner, you are quite capable indeed. Even an ice queen like our little junior sister was conquered by you. Tell me, what techniques did you use? Big senior sister. Ying Huan cried out somewhat helplessly. Haha, all right. I'll drop this. However, little fellow, you are quite capable indeed. Just how many years has it been? Yet, you actually formed a divine palace. It seems like you are in no way inferior to little junior sister. The life-death master laughed. She had naturally detected Lin Dong's strength. Although his yuan power cultivation was merely at the reincarnation stage and was hardly outstanding in her eyes, the ripple emitted from his divine palace took her by surprise. Beside them, the Flame Master and the rest shrugged their shoulders towards Lin Dong. Clearly, they were used to this. All of you can carry on without us. I have something to discuss with little junior sister. The life-death master pulled Ying Huan aside before they walked into the distance. After which, she stopped beside a cliff. Following which, the smile on her small face gradually disappeared as she said, you are suppressing the power within your body, am I right? I? Ying Huan looked into the distance and nodded faintly. The life-death master sat at the edge of the cliff before she muttered, in your current state, it's impossible for you to defeat the Heaven Seat King. Big senior sister, don't worry. I am aware of my own limits. Ying Huan laughed. The life-death master sighed, you have truly changed after one reincarnation. However, you should do as you deem fit. After all, amongst all of us, you are the only one who can defeat the Heaven Seat King. Currently, Ying Huan was also sitting beside her. Meanwhile, her delicate hands were wrapped around her knees as she softly said, how nice would it be if the Yimo did not exist? If that was the case, there would be no need for her to awaken her power, nor would she have to freeze all her emotions and endure that endless lonely iciness. With a complicated expression on her face, the life-death master said, it has been hard on you. Why must this burden fall on your shoulders? Ying Huan shook her head gently. Following which, she buried her head between her knees before she softly said, don't worry. This time around, we will definitely emerge victorious. After they summoned the life-death master, the next 2 days were rather peaceful. Occasionally, they would look towards the north. At that distant land, they could detect that a frightening desire to fight was slowly sweeping over. That fighting desire could shake the world. In fact, despite the ancient master's formidable might, their expressions turned solemn. This aura was formed after gathering every top expert in this world. Therefore, this was not something that anyone alone could block by himself. On the third day, when the first ray of sunlight shone onto the ground, the calm before the storm gradually died down. Lin Dong's group lifted their heads before they saw countless figures flooding over from the distant sky like a swarm of locusts. In fact, their sharp rushing wind noises could be heard from 300 miles away. Many large clusters of powerful soldiers rushed over. Finally, they gradually landed in front of this mountain. At a glance, the sky and the ground were covered by a large sea of people. In fact, with a single glance, it was impossible to see and enter this massive alliance army. Lin Dong and the 7 of them were standing on the mountain peak. Following which, countless experts from the alliance army discovered their presence. Immediately, respectful and orderly voices reverberated, greetings to the elders. Following which, a few glowing figures shot out from within the large alliance army. After which, they swiftly approached the mountain peak. Big brother. A powerful voice sounded. After which, a metal tower-like figure directly rushed towards Lin Dong. Subsequently, he landed heavily on the mountain peak, causing it to vibrate slightly. Little Flame. When Lin Dong saw that metal tower-like man, a trace of joy flashed across his eyes. Currently, Little Flame looked even more muscular compared to before. However, his skin appeared to be extremely rough. Meanwhile, a faint purple-gold glow was being vaguely emitted from him. This fluctuation. A glint flashed across Lin Dong's eyes. This was because he could detect a relatively familiar fluctuation from within Little Flame's body. It was the strength of an ancestral symbol. It's the Chaos ancestral symbol. The Chaos Master smiled faintly. He sized up Little Flame's body before he nodded. It seems like he was quite satisfied with who the Chaos ancestral symbol chose as its new owner. Little Flame rubbed his head and laughed. 1 year ago, I stumbled across it. After that, I gave it a try and ended up winning the acknowledgement of the Chaos ancestral symbol. Lin Dong grinned and nodded. He was happy that Little Flame had such a chance encounter. In fact, it was possible for him to detect that Little Flame had already advanced to the reincarnation stage. Together with the Chaos ancestral symbol, there was no need for Little Flame to fear even if he was up against a true King Yimo. Lin Dong smiled. After which, his eyes turned towards Little Flame's side. At that spot, stood a black-clothed handsome tall young man. Who else could he be besides Little Martin? However, perhaps it was because he was in charge of the Demon Region Alliance, his face looked colder and sterner than before. At this moment, Little Martin was also looking at Lin Dong. Meanwhile, there was a warm expression on his handsome face. Both of them smiled as they looked at each other. The brotherly feelings between the both of them was beyond question. That's right, there is someone who really wants to meet you. As if he suddenly recalled something, Little Martin turned around and waved to the Demon Region Alliance army behind him. Following which, a bright light shot over. Then, that bright light disappeared before a slim beautiful young lady appeared in front of Lin Dong. This young lady had a soft and tall body. Meanwhile, she was wearing a long dress while her black hair was tied randomly. Her skin was snow white and she had a narrow willow-like waist. She had high eyebrows, a tall nose and sexy red lips. When she curled her lips, the smile on the corner of her lips looked extremely enchanting and it would cause one's heart to flutter. Just looking at her would leave one absent-minded. You Xin-Qing? However, Lin Dong did not lose his mind because of her bewitching beauty. Instead, he merely stared at her in shock before he cried out joyously. Xin-Qing greets Lord Lin Dong. The young lady bowed towards Lin Dong. However, there was a trace of pure and natural temptation flowing within her faint smile. Meanwhile, there was joy within her lively pretty eyes, which could not be concealed, as she stared boldly at Lin Dong in a heated fashion. This young lady was in fact Xin-Qing, the girl who had accompanied Lin Dong to the Demon Region back then, only to end up sealing her entire stockade in order to receive the Nine-Tailed Fox inheritance. However, within a few years, the young lady from before had already undergone a drastic transformation. In fact, she no longer looked as delicate and timid as before. Even with Lin Dong's mental fortitude, he involuntarily felt a little strain when she stared at him with her bright watery eyes. The Nine-Tailed Foxes were indeed extremely attractive. It's no wonder even though the Devouring Master had a wife, he still ended up having ties with the Nine-Tailed Fox. How is your stockade doing? Lin Dong smilingly asked. Xin-Qing curled her small lips and nodded. She said, our Nine-Tailed tribe has once again become one of the overlord tribes in the Demon Region. It's all thanks to Lord Lin Dong's help. Xin-Qing will never forget this huge favor. Lin Dong smiled. When he heard about what happened to the Nine-Tailed Fox stockade, he felt joy in his heart. Many figures once again rushed over from afar. Qing Tan, Ling Qingshu, Tang Xinlian, Qingxi and the many elite members of the alliance had rushed over. Ying Huanhuan looked at the alliance army, before she inhaled a deep breath and said, since everyone is here, the 3 alliance armies shall be commanded by Miss Xinlian. Everyone must do their best to assist her. If we lose this war, it is likely that every living being in this world will fall into the hands of the devil prison. Understood? Everyone cupped their hands together solemnly upon hearing this. Clearly, all of them knew how crucial the final upcoming battle was. In that case, Ying Huanhuan exchanged glances with the Life-Death Master and the rest. Following which, a stern expression flashed across their eyes. Let's head out and attack the Western Xian region. This video will end here.